How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Samachtes, Daf 69 of Masechta Kiddushin. Friends, friends. Friends, I've been having some problems again with my microphone. Dag nabbit. I gotta re-record part of the daf from the other day. There was a daf the other day that I only found out about when I was listening to it. There's so much going on right now in Eretz Yisrael, and it was just like Sukkot. What a crazy time! And I haven't been able to listen to all of the episodes like I usually like to. I'm sorry, but it's annoying when there are issues with the mic. It's just it's pretty unpredictable, and then I gotta go back and re-record. What a shanda! So my apologize from the deepest depth of my soul. All right. Chevra, today we're starting the fourth and final parak of Masechta Kiddushin. It's called Asar Yuchsin. It's arguably interesting. Shall we? We shall. Alright, Samachtes Samad Aleph, at the beginning of the new parak says, the Mishnah. Asar Yuchsin, Chevra, let's learn in the merit that the Yidden should see salvation very, very, very soon. Very, very, very soon. Says the Mishnah, Asar Yuchsim Alu Mi Bavel. There were 10. Babylon. No. That Babylon just came out of nowhere, just as we can see these days, just like that, 1 second you think you're just babbling, the next thing you know, you're babble-yawning. Alright. So there were 10 types of people that Ezra took with him from Bavel when they went to Eretz Yisrael for the second temple. We're going to learn more about it in the Gemara. So Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraeli, the classic ones. Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim, Chalole, Cholos, Geire, converts, proselytes. Vachrure, Afrid Avodim, Mamzere, Mamzers. I think that's 7. Nisine, Nussins, right? Those people who became Holz choppers and Wasserträgers. And Shisuki Vasufi. We're going to see in a second what Shtukis and Asufis are. Okay, as we know, of course, Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim are allowed to marry one another. Kohanim, Yisraelim, Leviim, whatever. They can all marry each other, all good. Leviye, Yisraele, Chalole, Geire, Vachrure. So those people are allowed Mutar and Lovu Zeboze, they can marry each other. Geire, Vachrure, proselytes, Frid Avodim, Mamzere, Unisine, Shtuke, Vasufe, Kulam, Mutar and Lovu Zeboze, they can all marry each other. Ve'eluim Shtuki, this is a Shtuki. Koshu makir es imo ve'eno makir esav. A fellow who knows who his mother is, but he doesn't know who his father is, and it's called a shtuki because if he thinks that somebody's his father, he says, "Oh, daddy," and his mother's gonna quiet him, say shtok, because that might not actually be his father. Asufi. Sufi, somebody who's just swooped up from the market and he doesn't know his father or his mother. Abashal hayikore lishtuki baduki. So Abashal would call a shtuki a baduki. Shtuki baduki. That sounds nice. Says the Gemara. So the Mishnah had said that there were 10 types of people that made aliyah. There was 10 types of tziyonim. 10 types of Tziyonim. But they weren't Tziyonim back then. Tziyonim was in the end of the 19th century with the Tziyonim. These were Jews. 10 types of Jews. My area, Detani, Olumi Bavel, Nesne, Hol Chuletz Israel. I like that. I like that, right? How come they have to say that they made aliyah from Bavel? Why does it say where they came from? Why don't we focus on where they're going to? Hol Chuletz Yisrael. They were on their way to Eretz Yisrael. Milsak of Orche Kamash Malon. In using that lashon of Alumi Bavel, the Mishnah was telling us a side point. Kiditanis we learn in the Brisa v'kamta ve'alisa elamakom asher yivcha Hashem Elokecha, that the pasuk says that you will go up to the Beis Hamikdash, Melamed Beis Hamikdash Gavoya Mikol Eretz Yisrael, which teaches that the Beis Hamikdash was higher than all of the rest of Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael Gavoya Mikol Aratzos, and Eretz Yisrael is higher than all of the other lands. B'Shlama Beis Hamikdash Gavoya Mikol Eretz Yisrael. So, okay, I understand that the Beis Hamikdash is higher all of the rest of Eretz Yisrael. Hanu Dichsiv. That's exactly the pasuk that we just quoted. Diverivos b'sharecha v'kamto ve'aliso. That you will go up to Hamakom Asher Yivcha, to the Beis Hamikdash. El Eretz Yisrael Gavoya Mikol Aratzos Minolon. How do I know that Eretz Yisrael is higher than all of the other lands? The pasuk says, Lochein, therefore, Hine Yomim Boim Hum Hashem. The days are coming, so says God. Lo Yom Ha'od Chai Hashem Asher Helo as Bnei Yisrael Eretz Mitzrayim. They won't say, we won't be talking about Hashem who took the Yidden out of Eretz Mitzrayim, Ki'im, but rather Chai Hashem Asher Helo, that Hashem took us up, Vasher Hevi, and brought as Bnei Yisrael Eretz Tzafon, the Yidden from the northern land, which I think is a reference to Bavel, and from all the places. And then the pasuk then continues, V'yashvu al admasom, and they will live in Eretz Yisrael. So we see that it says Ve'alu, right? That the Yidden are going up to Eretz Yisrael. So there you go, right? So we see that Eretz Yisrael is oichet, taller, higher than all the rest of the lands. Okay, so that's why it says Alu. Okay, it says Alu to teach that they went up to Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is higher up. My area, Dutani, Alu, Mibavel, Nisnei, Alu, Eretz Yisrael. So also affecting Gemara, but still, why does it say Alu, Mibavel? Why does it say they came from Bavel? Say they went up from Bavel. Say they went up to Eretz Yisrael. Let's focus on where they're going to, not where they're leaving from. So Misayeh Elei, Rabbi Lazar, the reason why Dafka points doesn't in the context of Bavel that Alu mi Bavel rather than Alu Eretz Yisrael is the Amar Rabbi Lazar lo Allah Ezra mi Bavel ad shasa kisolas nikia ve'Allah. That it's teaching a point that by referencing Bavel specifically is to teach a point that when Ezra left Bavel to go to Eretz Yisrael, he left Bavel like well sifted flour. Everything was clean, i.e., he took all of because as Rashi explains that, Ezra assumed that all of the rabbis and, the main Jewish center was no longer going to be in Bavel. It was going to be in Eretz Yisrael, and he was concerned that there wouldn't be so many rabbis left in Bavel to, know who's marrying who and kind of be able to manage all of that. So what he did is he brought all of the sort of different kinds of Jews to Eretz Yisrael, all of sort of the more tricky cases like Mamzerim and Chalalim and Shtukis and Asufis and Badukis, maybe according to Abba Shaul, Shtukis, Badukis. And so Ezra kind of brought all these people with him so that in Bavel there would only be sort of just Kohens, Levims, Yisraels, and they could all marry each other and nothing to worry about. And that was the point of mentioning Mi Bavel, to say that when Ezra left from Bavel, he took with him all of these people, so that the only people that were left in Bavel were Kisolas Nikia, like fine flour, that everybody would be able to marry each other without having to worry about different statuses and things. It was stated. Abaye Omer says, Abaye, Alu Me'eleim. So Abaye says that all of these different types of Jews, they on their own, they gravitated towards Ezra and they moved to Eretz Yisrael with him, whereas as opposed to Alu Me'eleim Tanan v'Rove Omar He'elum Tanan. Whereas Rava says no. Ezra kind of pointed them out and took them with him. Pointed them out and kind of took them with him. They didn't just gravitate on their own. The Kamiflige b'd Rabbi Lazar, and they're arguing on this concept of Rabbi Lazar, the Amar Rabbi Lazar, it says Rabbi Lazar lo Allah Ezra mi Bavel ad she'asa kisoles nikia ve'Allah. That that when Ezra went to Eretz Yisrael, he took all the people with him, and he made whoever was left in Bavel like fine flour. So Abaye leislay the Rebbe Elazar. So Abaye doesn't hold the Rebbe Elazar, and therefore Ezra didn't specifically go and collect everybody. They just came on their own. Whereas Rava islay the Rebbe Elazar, whereas Rava holds the Rebbe Elazar, and therefore he says that no, he went and he found all these people, and he says, hey, you're coming with me. Alternatively, D'chuli Alma islahu the Rebbe Elazar. Alternatively, everybody holds of Rebbe Elazar, right? Both Abaye and Rava hold like Rebbe Elazar hold that that when the Yidden that when Ezra left Eretz Yisrael, he left Bavel. That when Ezra went to Eretz Yisrael, he left Bavel like fine flour. Both Abaye and Rava agree. The machlokas is thus: my sover afrushe afroshinu uminafshayu sliku. That according to Abaye, what happened was Ezra went and he went to all the communities and he pointed out, these are the people who are shtukis and badukis and cholos and mamzerim, and kind of pointed them out. And then they're like, well, now that we feel kind of exposed, we don't want to be here anymore. Why don't we move to Eretz Yisrael and start a new life where nobody knows who we are? So Ezra went and kind of like pointed out who these people were, and then they're like, well, so once already they were kind of exposed, then they just chose on their own, well, you know what, why don't we just go to Eretz Yisrael and start anew? Umar Savar Bar Korchayu Asukinu, whereas Rava says he didn't simply separate them and then leave them to make a decision on their own. He Poshet separated them according to Rava and took them with him. Now, Bishlam al-Manda Amr Alu, so I understand according to Abaye, who says that they made the decision on their own to go to Eretz Yisrael. Hainu the Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. This is what Rav Yehuda says in the Shmuel called Aratos Itza Eretz Yisrael, and that all of the countries are considered like dough to Eretz Yisrael. What do you mean by like dough? Well, just like when you make a dough. I'm not a dough maker, but apparently Rashi was, and he explains how to make a dough. And he says that when you make a dough, Rashi says Isa Safik Eruvin, right, that things are mixed together. Ki Isa, like a dough, Zoshim Arvin but Seor, you put in leaven, mayim, water, vikemach, flour, melach, salt, visubin, I don't know, like bran, I guess. Alright, well, that's a recipe. Anybody want to try it out? It's a very simple recipe. It's leaven, water, flour, salt, and I guess bran or something. Let me know how it goes. So it's a whole mixture, and you mix it all together, right? So relative to Eretz Yisrael, all of the other lands are considered like everybody's all mixed together, right? Shtukis, badukis, and asufis, and mamzerim. Everybody's all mixed up together. But Eretz Yisrael, less so, right? They're all of the other lands are considered like mixed together doughs relative to Eretz Yisrael, Isa Bavel. And relative to Bavel, Eretz Yisrael is considered like a mixed together dough, because according to Abaye, who says that they went up on their own so that they can move to Eretz Yisrael and kind of, go under the radar again because they were exposed in Bavel. So according to Abaye, once they went to Eretz Yisrael, nobody knew who they were, right? In Bavel, Ezra pointed out who they were, so they were kind of exposed. But then they moved to Eretz Yisrael to kind of start anew, and nobody necessarily knew who they were in Eretz Yisrael, and therefore, relative to Bavel, Eretz Yisrael is messier, right? Because and then in Bavel, everybody had already left, and all sort of the unique cases had gone to Eretz Yisrael, so Bavel was kind of the cleanest of them all. But according to Rava, who says that not only did he separate them and then they kind of went on their own volition, no, Ezra separated them and forcefully took them with him, and everybody knew who these people were. So what do you mean? Why should Eretz Yisrael be considered like a mixed together dough relative to Bavel? Even in Eretz Yisrael, the people know who they are, who they should be marrying, and who they shouldn't. So Nihid Yade Laudara, well, granted that maybe the first generation, they knew who was who in Eretz Yisrael, but the Dara Achvina Lo Yade, but the next generation, people wouldn't know anymore. And then the fact that like all these different people are in Eretz Yisrael means that necessarily it's going to get messy. So I understand, according to Abayu, who says Alu, that they went on their own. I understand the pasuk in Sefer Ezra where it says that I gathered together all the people by the river that goes to Ahava Sham, and we camped there in Yom Shlosha for 3 days. And I had to understand who I had over there. And I didn't find Kohanim and Leviim. So he didn't even know who he took with him. Right? So I understand, according to Abayu, who says that they went on their own, that I understand. Ezra didn't know who was there. But if you say that he took these people with him, he knew who he took with him. Well, granted that he knew who the psulim were, right? The cholos and the shtuki badukis and all those people, but he didn't necessarily know the kohanim and the levim, and that's why he had to figure out who was there from the kohanim and the levim, and apparently nobody. Alright, what do I mean to tell you? Wait, but what was kohanim b'nei Levi? Sorry, I'm just pondering. Was that Gemara in Yavamis? What happened? Was it that during Ezra the Levim went, but the Kohanim didn't go? And that's why... No, Fakert? No, was it Fakert? That the Levim didn't go, and the Kohanim went, so they got fined, and the Kohanim, you can give Meiser to the Kohanim, something like that? So now, the Mishnah says, Kohanim Levi Yisraeli, priests, Levites, and Yisraels. Minolim Desliko, how do we know that they went up? The pasuk says, what's the pasuk? Vayeshu Kohanim V'Levim. So the priests and the Levites dwelled, I guess, and settled. And from the nation, the singers and the gatekeepers. V'Anesinim B'Areim V'Chol Yisrael B'Areim. So we see that we had all these people. Okay, I don't know. So I don't understand. Did they not go? Did they go? I don't know. Apparently, I guess they went. Chalole Geir V'Achrurei, Cholos, proselytes, and freed avodim. Chalole Minolan, how do we know about the proselytes? No, how do we know about the Cholos? How do we know about the Cholos? Friends, you know what a Cholol is, right? Like somebody who's born from like if a Kohen marries somebody, he's not allowed to marry, like a Gioris or something. So then the child is a Cholol. Okay. So Chalole Minolan, the Tanya is learned by Rabbi Yossi. It says Rabbi Yossi, Gedola Chazake, a Chazake. A chazaka, when we assume a certain status of something, so it's stark. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, bnei kehanim, from the priests, bnei chavoya, bnei akots, bnei barzilai, asher lokach mibnos barzilai giladi isha vayikra vayikore al shmam, eile bikshu ksovam hamsiachsim v'lo nimtzo. Nimtzo, probably nimtzo. Come on, nimtzo. Yay, nimtzo! I should have put money on that. Lots of money. Alright. So these people who were supposedly from priestaic families, they were looking for the papers to prove that they were priests, but they couldn't. So they were kind of like banned from the, what did I say? Priestology? No, what did what did I say a second ago? That they were I don't know, priestology? Is that what I said? Priestologists? Priestology. Priests. So from priesting, from the priesthood. That's probably the right word, priesthood. Priestanism? Oh, did I say priestanism? I don't know, why not? Is anybody going to stop me? I dare you. Stop me now. In order to stop me now, you would have to have a time machine. And you would have to go back in time and stop me. And that would be really interesting. Alright. I hope that this recording doesn't get messed up. Alright. So they were kind of banned from priesting, from priestinizing, from priestigating, from priestigating, from being priests. Nehemiah says to them, you can't eat korbanis at Amod Kohen Lurim Vesum Be'etzim till Mashiach comes. So basically you had these cholos, right? Meaning we couldn't assume that they were Kohanim because they didn't have their papers. So we treated them like cholos. And Nehemiah says to them, so, but you can stick with your chazaka. Well, what's the chazaka? Well, when you were in the Galus, in Bavel, you would eat truma in Bavel, right? Meaning you were Kohanim in Eretz Yisrael. You moved in Bavel. You were eating truma, but you couldn't. Right now, we can't prove that you're Kohanim in order to eat like korbanos and stuff. But okay, in Bavel you were eating truma, and truma in Bavel was mider abanon because it's in Chutz La'aretz. So Afkanami because okay, so here because you have the chazaka, because in Bavel you were eating truma, so here also we'll let you eat truma. Okay, we'll let you eat truma because that's your chazaka. You can't eat korbanos because obviously they weren't eating korbanos in Bavel, but truma you can continue to eat because you have a chazaka that you can eat truma. But what about according to the opinion who says that if you see a fellow eating truma, you can assume that he's a kohen? But in this case, we're saying that these people were going to be eating truma in Eretz Yisrael, but they're not actually kohanim. They can't be eating kachim. So there's a concept that if you see somebody eating truma, you can assume that they're a kohen. In terms of like marriage, in terms of if you're going to marry a kohen and stuff. But how can you assume that they're a kohen if they're just eating truma? If even these chalal people are eating truma, sani do'achol. So when the people see these people eating truma, they're going to think that they're kohanim, but they're not. Shiny hasum derechas kasayus. The Gemara says, well, it's different in this case because since people see that they're not going to be allowed to eat kachim, they're not allowed to eat korbanis, so memele they're gonna, nobody's gonna think that they're actually kohanim. Ve'ela my gedola chazake. So now, affecting Gemara, Rabbi Yossi didn't just say, how do we know that chazaka is like a big thing? He doesn't say. He says gedola chazaka. Chazaka is so great, meaning it sounds like that there's going to be some chiddush over here. That chazaka is so strong that it even trumps something unexpected. And for the Gemara, to me, kara achol b'truma derabanan. Well, the chiddush is that look in Bavel. They had a chazaka that they would eat truma, but the truma in Bavel was only midrabanan, and a chazaka is so strong that they had a chazaka that they're allowed to eat truma. Ulevasof achol b'truma de'oraisa. The chazaka was so strong that even though in Bavel they were only eating truma de'rabanan, once they got to Eretz Yisrael, because of their chazaka that they're allowed to eat truma, they can eat truma even midoraisa. Right, the truma of Eretz Yisrael, which is truma de'oraisa. Alternatively, lo lamashanami b'derabanan achol. Alternatively, you could say, no, even now as well, when they went to Eretz Yisrael, they were only eating truma derabanan, not truma deoraisa. Truma derabanan, meaning midoraisa truma is only by tirosh, yitzar, and dagon, tirosh, and yitzar, midoraisa. But something like an apple, truma on an apple, will only be midirabanan. So we could say, look, even in Eretz Yisrael, they were only eating, apple truma, not grape truma, because tirosh is grapes. That's midoraisa. And when we say that if you see somebody eating truma, you can assume he's a kohen. If you see somebody eating truma deoraisa, if you see somebody eating truma of grapes, not just truma of apples, well then what is the chiddush about the chazaka, right? We say gedola chazaka. Chazaka is so strong, but apparently, the chazaka doesn't seem, there's no chiddush over here. They ate truma midrabanan in Bavel. They're eating truma midrabanan in Eretz Yisrael. To make kara lekel migzer mishum truma deoraisa. No, well, the chiddush is that when they were in Bavel, sure, let them eat truma, have a good time, what's the worst that can happen? It's not like there was any Truma D'Oraisa there that we'd be concerned, well, if you let them eat Truma D'Rabbanan, then maybe they'll eat Truma D'Oraisa. There was no Truma D'Oraisa in Bavel. Levasof afal gad di'iko lemigzar mishum Truma D'Oraisa b'D'Rabbanan achu b'D'Oraisa lo achu. And so the Gedola Chazaka is that even though once they got to Eretz Yisrael, I might think that they should not eat Truma, even Truma D'Rabbanan, because maybe they'll come to eat Truma D'Oraisa, which would be a problem. No, because they had a Chazaka, they can continue to eat Truma D'Rabbanan in Eretz Yisrael, even though there is a concern about Truma D'Oraisa, but because Gedola Chazaka, because Chazaka is a starke Zach, so therefore they can eat Truma in Eretz Yisrael, and we don't make a Gzera about Truma D'Oraisa. They can eat Truma D'Rabbanan in Eretz Yisrael, there's no concern about D'Oraisa. V'oksiv, but doesn't it say, Vayomer Atershas Elohim, that Nehemiah says to them, Asher lo yochlu mikodesh hakodashim, that they shouldn't eat korbanis. Bikodesh hakodashim hu to lo yochal. They shouldn't eat korbanis hakol midei necho, but they should be able to eat all sorts of truma, even truma deoraisa. Hachikam, this is what he's saying. Lo midi demikre kodesh, v'lo midi demikre kodashim. No. What he's saying is you cannot eat something that's called kodesh, and you cannot eat something that's called kodshim. Lo midi demikre kodesh, can't eat something that's called kodesh, which is a reference to truma, meaning truma deoraisa. D'chsev v'chazar lo yochal kodesh, that any non-kohen is forbidden from eating kodesh, which is a reference to truma, and he's saying, right, truma deoraisa, right, that they're not allowed to eat truma deoraisa, they can only eat truma deorabanan. V'lo midi demikre kodashim, and not korbanis. The Amar the Bible says, "Vas kohen kisiya leishzar he b'trumas hakodshim lo sochel." That it says that if a fella, a bas kohen, gets married and then she gets divorced, so she can go back home and she can continue eating truma, but she can't eat the chazav v'shok anymore, right? If they brought home like if a father brought home like from a shlomim like chazav v'shok, she won't be able to eat that anymore. Right, these things that came from the kachim, from korbanos, she can't eat anymore once she got married, even though she's now divorced and back home. Friends, that was daf samach tes of Masechta Kiddushin. Again, I hope my microphone was okay this time around. We started the final parak of Masechta Kiddushin, Asar Yuchsin, that talks about the different types of people that came with Ezra when he made Aliyah from Eretz Yisrael, from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael to build the second temple, and this is going to be the subject of our forthcoming parak piece.